You know the feeling. I mean, we've all been there, right? You've practiced your English for weeks.
Oh, yeah. Standing in front of the bathroom mirror, just running through every single phrase.
Exactly. Until your voice is literally hoarse. You walk into the room, take a seat. The hiring manager smiles warmly and says, "Tell me about yourself." And suddenly your brain just dumps all its data.
Total blank. It's a universal nightmare scenario for anyone interviewing in a second language.
It really is. Every piece of vocabulary you memorize just evaporates into thin air.
Right, because it's this terrifying moment where physiological panic, completely overrides your cognitive preparation.
Yeah.
You're just left staring blankly at the person who holds the key to your career.
If you are nodding along to this right now, feeling that secondhand anxiety, you are definitely not alone. Interviewing is already one of the most stressful conversations a person can have.
Oh, absolutely.
And adding a language barrier feels like turning the difficulty setting up to, maximum.
Yeah.
But we are looking at a stack of source materials today that prove it doesn't have to be this way.
It really doesn't.
The mission of our deep dive today is to take you from a nervous, hesitant applicant and transform you into a confident professional who just happens to be speaking a second language.
I love that framing.
Our sources provide an incredibly detailed blueprint for mastering the job interview in English.
But the crucial thing to realize before we even look at that blueprint is that it requires a massive foundational mindset shift.
Right.
We have to establish right out of the gate that a job interview is not an English proficiency exam.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because we often treat these interviews like a high-stakes vocabulary test, right?
Yeah.
Where one wrong preposition or like a slightly mispronounced word means instant failure.
Yes. People fixate on the grammar so much.
But really, an interview is just a conversation to figure out if you have the capacity to solve this company's problems.
Exactly. And what's fascinating here is the underlying psychology of how we allocate our mental bandwidth. The interviewer is primarily looking for clear communication and professional competence. They're not looking for flawless textbook grammar.
They just want to know you could do the job.
Right. But when you walk in terrified of making a linguistic mistake, your brain routes almost all of its processing power toward monitoring your syntax, verb tenses, article usage.
Which is exhausting.
It is. And because of that heavy cognitive load, you literally have no mental energy left to actually listen actively or read the room.
You can't even form a genuine human connection with the person sitting across the table.
Exactly. But when you deliberately shift your focus toward connection and problem solving rather than grammatical perfection, that mental block lifts.
Your true professional qualifications finally have the space to shine through.
Yes. The hiring manager ultimately just wants to know if you can do the work, and this is key if you are someone they actually want to interact with every single day.
And, because your brain is misallocating all that energy to grammar, it actually leaks out into your physical actions before you even speak a word.
Oh, big time.
Which means we have to look at the moments before that first formal question is even asked. The interview starts the second you open the door.
It does. And that physiological panic can cause that crucial first impression to completely derail. First impressions are formed in milliseconds.
Milliseconds.
It's crazy.
And when you're dealing with the added pressure of communicating in a non-native language, the fight or flight response kicks in heavily.
Yeah.
There's actually a brilliant, a somewhat painful case study in our source material that illustrates this perfectly.
Oh, the handshake incident.
Yes.
It is almost hard to read because you can feel the candidate's panic just jumping off the page.
It really is a visceral example.
Yeah.
The sources detail this highly qualified candidate who was so incredibly anxious about getting their English phrases perfectly right.
Right. They're totally in their own head.
Exactly.
Huh.
So they walked into the interview room, completely bypassed the hiring manager's extended hand,
Oh, no.
and aggressively sat down in the chair before even being invited to do so.
They just fully ignored the handshake. Completely. They were so hyper-focused on the internal script in their head that they abandoned basic professional physical norms.
You can just imagine the heavy, awkward silence in that room.
Yeah.
I mean, nerves do incredibly strange things to our baseline behavior.
They really do.
And beyond forgetting to shake hands, our sources highlight another physical manifestation of this anxiety. Candidates speaking at lightning speed.
Yes.
It's almost as if they're trying to outrun their own discomfort.
That is the literal definition of the flight response. Your nervous system is screaming, "This situation is dangerous. Get this over with as quickly as possible."
Right. If I talk fast, I can leave sooner.
Exactly. The instinct is to rush through the greeting to minimize the time you spend feeling vulnerable. But the primary strategy for managing this first impression stage is completely counterintuitive to what your body wants to do.
Which is what?
You must consciously force yourself to slow down. Take a deep, measured breath. You need to remind yourself that short, deliberate sentences are not just acceptable, they are actually the preferred method of communication in business.
Wait, I want to push back on that a bit.
Okay, sure.
From a language learner's perspective, doesn't speaking quickly signal fluency? I mean, in my mind, if I can fire off sentences rapidly, it tricks the listener into thinking I am a master of the language.
This raises an important question, and it addresses one of the most common and damaging misconceptions in language learning.
Which is?
Fluency is absolutely not defined by speed.
Interesting.
True fluency is defined by flow, rhythm, and clarity. When you rush your speech, especially when your heart rate is already elevated by nerves, you end up tripping over syllables.
Pronunciation becomes muddled.
Exactly, and you actually force the interviewer to work much harder to decode what you're saying. Clarity and deliberate pacing will always, without exception, beat rushed, panicked speech.
That makes a lot of sense.
A calm, measured speaking pace projects authority and confidence regardless of your vocabulary level.
So the goal is to decelerate, slow down, breathe, and keep the phrasing simple.
Precisely.
To execute this, the sources highlight a cluster of essential vocabulary words for this initial stage that you should have readily accessible. Like, you want to be highly comfortable with words like position, resume, or CV, depending on your region experience, qualifications, and hiring manager.
Right. And the strategy is to pair those anchor words with very natural, unhurried phrases.
You don't need to be Shakespeare right out of the gate.
Exactly. You do not need to construct complex, poetic sentences while you are still settling into the room. Phrases like, nice to meet you, thank you for inviting me today, or I'm excited to be here are perfect.
Simple and effective.
Delivered calmly, with a genuine smile and a proper handshake, those simple, structurally basic phrases establish an immediate tone of professional competence.
That makes perfect sense. Okay, so once you have successfully navigated the greeting, you're safely seated after waiting for the invitation to sit, and your breathing is somewhat normalized.
Hopefully.
But then you face the inevitable. The most common, most open-ended, and arguably the most dreaded interview prompt of all time.
Ah, yes. Tell me about yourself.
Tell me about yourself. It's so broad.
It is the prompt that triggers 1,000 rambling, incoherent answers.
Yep.
Because the question is so incredibly broad, candidates lack boundaries. They don't know where their professional story should begin, and more importantly, they don't know where it should end.
So they just end up listing their entire life history.
Exactly. Starting from kindergarten.
Right. Well, to solve this, our sources provide a highly effective architectural framework to structure your response. It's known as the present, past, future framework.
I love this one. The beauty of this framework lies in its cognitive ease.
How so?
It provides a predictable narrative roadmap for both you and the interviewer, preventing you from getting lost in a maze of your own background details.
So, breaking down the mechanics of it, you start with the present. You establish your current professional baseline. You might say, I'm currently working as a data analyst, or whatever your current status is.
Yeah. Right. And from there, you transition to the past. This is where you explain the foundation that built your current skills.
Like I recently graduated from.
Exactly. Or, prior to this, I spent 3 years gaining experience in. This segment allows you to seamlessly weave in crucial vocabulary like degree, skills, teamwork, or project management.
And finally, you wrap the answer up with the future component, which is the mechanism that elegantly ties your entire background directly to the job you are currently interviewing for.
Bringing it all together.
Yeah, you finish with, and now I'm looking for an opportunity to apply those skills to, and then name the position.
That structure creates a complete narrative arc. You are methodically demonstrating who you are, the evidence of how you acquired your capabilities, and the logical reason why you're sitting in front of them today.
It's super clean.
It satisfies the interviewer's question perfectly without unnecessary fluff.
However, and this is a big however, there is a massive psychological trap here for non-native speakers, which the sources warn about extensively.
Oh, the memorization track.
The trap of rote memorization. Candidates will write out a beautiful present, past, future script and then memorize it syllable by syllable.
It is genuinely the most destructive preparation mistake a candidate can make.
Really, the most destructive.
I think so.
Hmm.
When you memorize a block of text, you falsely believe you're minimizing risk. But in reality, you're setting up a single point of failure.
I always think of memorizing a script like walking a tightrope. If you miss even one single word, you lose your balance and the whole thing comes crashing down.
That's a great analogy.
But using a framework like present, past, future is more like having a compass. Even if you take a slightly different conversational path, you always know exactly which direction you need to head to reach your destination.
That is a brilliant way to conceptualize it. Furthermore, even if you manage to successfully traverse that tightrope and remember every single word perfectly, interviewers possess a highly tuned radar for scripted answers.
They can always tell.
Always. The moment you start reciting, your vocal tone flattens. Your eye contact changes from engaging to vacant because you're reading from an invisible teleprompter in your mind.
Yeah, you're not actually looking at them anymore.
Exactly. The natural flow of human connection is instantly severed. You cease being a dynamic professional having a collaborative conversation and transform into a machine playing back a recording.
And if we put ourselves in the hiring manager's shoes, think about the impression that leaves. Who would you rather hire? Someone who sounds like a walking textbook reciting data? Or someone who sounds like a dynamic human being you could actually brainstorm with on a Tuesday morning?
Definitely the human being. So the takeaway is to memorize the structural bullet points, not the prose.
Right. And that dynamic conversational tone is exactly what you need to carry into the middle portion of the interview, which presents a completely different challenge.
Proving your actual value.
Proving your value without just rattling off a list of nice-sounding words. So this is the perfect moment for a quick thought experiment.
Oh, I'm ready.
A sort of mid-deep dive quiz based on the sources to test our own instincts on professional phrasing. I want you to listen to these two options and consider which one carries more psychological weight in an interview setting.
Okay.
Option A is a candidate saying, I am a very responsible person. Option B is a candidate saying, I enjoy taking responsibility or working with a team to hit our targets.
The linguistic difference seems subtle on the surface, but the impact on the listener is vastly different.
If your instinct pulled you toward option B, I enjoy taking responsibility, you are completely aligned with the research. But let's look at the mechanism behind it. Why does option A fail to impress?
What's fascinating here is a specific behavioral pattern highlighted in the data. Native speakers operating at a high professional level almost never answer a question with a naked adjective.
A naked adjective, I like that term.
Yeah. Saying I am hardworking or I am responsible feels syntactically incomplete in a business context. It is an unverified claim. Option B works better because it frames the trait as an active preference and a process rather than just a static label.
It all comes back to the classic rule. Stories and evidence are infinitely stronger than isolated adjectives.
Always.
If an interviewer asks about your strength, and you simply list words, reliable, organized, motivated, adaptable, detail-oriented moon, you're essentially saying nothing.
Those words are free. Anyone can say them.
Right. Claiming an adjective requires zero effort. To actually prove value, you have to back those adjectives up with structural evidence.
Which brings us to one of the most powerful tools detailed in the source material for answering behavioral questions. Like, tell me about a time you solved a complex challenge.
The famous behavioral questions.
Yep. And the tool is the SAR framework. SAR, situation, action, result.
I love how this framework essentially forces you to provide evidence and simultaneously prevents you from rambling. Let's dissect the mechanics. S stands for situation.
Right.
You provide the absolute minimum context needed to set the scene. For example, we were facing a strict 48-hour deadline on a major product launch.
It is concise and establishes the stakes immediately. Then you move to A, the action. This is the critical part where you describe your specific agency in the situation.
What you actually did.
Exactly. I organized a rapid response meeting, reassigned 3 key deliverables based on team strengths, and personally reformatted the final presentation.
And you close the loop with R, the result, the tangible outcome of your action. As a result, we delivered the project 4 hours ahead of the deadline, and the client signed a renewal contract.
Boom.
Situation, action, result. It keeps the English vocabulary tightly focused on professional actions rather than emotional rambling, and it provides concrete proof that your adjectives are real.
The psychological effect on the interviewer is profound. You are handing them a neatly packaged case study of your competence.
That is undeniable.
It demonstrates that you don't just understand the language, you understand how to navigate real-world business environments.
Well, since we have the storytelling structure mapped out, the sources suggest testing these concepts under pressure. We are going to run a realistic job interview simulation right now to demonstrate how easily things go wrong and how to execute them correctly.
Sounds fun.
I will play the role of the hiring manager, and you play the candidate. Let's run the poor strategy first, really leaning into the specific pitfalls our sources warn non-native speakers about.
Okay, I am ready. Let's simulate the pressure.
Setting the scene, we are 20 minutes into the interview. I am looking over your resume. So looking at your background here, tell me, did you enjoy taking the lead on that last major marketing rollout?
Yes.
I see. And moving on, what would you say is your biggest professional weakness?
My English isn't good. I'm sorry, I really tried. But yes, I liked the marketing project.
Okay, we're going to stop the simulation right there before it gets any more uncomfortable.
Good call.
That was physically difficult to get through.
It feels incredibly unnatural to intentionally self-sabotage a conversation like that.
Let's analyze the wreckage. The first major error was the one-word answer to the marketing question.
Yeah, replying with a simple yes is a conversational dead end. An interview is meant to be a volley of ideas. When you give a one-word answer, you force the interviewer to become an interrogator.
Right, dragging information out of you piece by piece.
Exactly. It kills the momentum and makes the interaction feel arduous for the hiring manager.
And that dead end led right into the cardinal sin of the simulation.
Yay.
Explicitly apologizing for your language skills by saying, "My English isn't good."
Oh, that phrase is a psychological anchor that drags down the entire perception of your competence.
It's so common, though.
It is, but when you explicitly state, "My English isn't good," you are voluntarily framing yourself as a deficit. You're highlighting a liability and forcing the interviewer to focus on your limitations rather than your skills.
You're doing the work for them.
Exactly. It also places the interviewer in an incredibly awkward social position where they feel obligated to reassure you, which completely derails the professional dynamic.
So we need to rewind and run that simulation again. This time, we employ the successful strategies, utilizing the SAR framework to expand on questions and using positive framing to address weaknesses.
Let's do it properly this time.
So, looking at your background here, tell me, did you enjoy taking the lead on that last major marketing rollout?
Yes, I really valued taking responsibility for that campaign. The situation was quite challenging because our budget was cut by 15% midway through. But I collaborated directly with the design team to pivot toward highly targeted, cost-effective digital ads, and as a result, we managed to increase our overall engagement metrics by 20% despite the budget constraints.
Excellent. The SAR structure completely opened up that answer. And moving on, what would you say is your biggest professional weakness?
I have a tendency to become overly focused on micro details, which can occasionally slow down my initial workflow. However, I am actively mitigating this by implementing strict daily time boxing for myself to ensure I maintain a macro perspective. Additionally, while I am still continuously improving my English, I am highly comfortable communicating complex ideas in professional environments.
And scene. Much better.
The difference in the energy there is night and day. Let's break down why that weakness answer worked so well. You didn't rely on a cliché, fake weakness like, "I am just a perfectionist who works too hard."
Right. Using a fake weakness insults the interviewer's intelligence. You have to offer a genuine, though manageable, flaw like getting bogged down in details.
Right.
But the critical mechanism is that you immediately follow the flaw with the proactive system you've implemented to correct it. It shows deep self-awareness and problem-solving capability.
And the pivot you made regarding the language barrier was masterfully done. You didn't apologize or diminish yourself. By replacing "my English isn't good" with "I am still improving my English and I am comfortable communicating," you completely reframe the narrative.
It's a total flip.
You shift it from a permanent deficit to a trajectory of growth. It reassures the hiring manager that you possess the confidence to handle the daily friction of workplace communication. It's a subtle shift in vocabulary, but a massive shift in psychology.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because that concept of subtle vocabulary shifts applies to everything you say. Once your structural strategy is locked in, the sources emphasize polishing the microsemantics of how you describe your past work.
It's all in the details.
We are going to analyze a few basic descriptions And look at the immediate professional upgrades that drastically alter how an interviewer perceives you.
The nuances of these upgrades are vital.
Let's take a very common basic phrase. I worked there for 3 years.
The upgrade provided by the sources is, I was responsible for, or I oversaw. The reason this matters is that I worked there is purely geographic and passive.
It's just a statement of fact.
Right. It implies you merely occupied a desk in a building. I was responsible for transforms you into an active agent who took ownership of specific outcomes.
That makes total sense. Here's another basic one. I helped customers.
The professional upgrade is, I assisted clients with, or I advised customers on. Again, helped is a bit vague and informal.
A bit too casual, maybe.
Yeah, words like assisted or advised elevate your role from a passive helper to a professional resource providing strategic value.
And the last one, which we hear all the time, I did many things in that role.
That phrase essentially communicates nothing.
0.
The upgrade is, I handled a variety of complex responsibilities. Saying, I did many things sounds scattered, almost juvenile. Framing it as managing a variety of responsibilities signals that you possess the organizational capacity to juggle multiple demanding tasks without dropping the ball.
By simply swapping out passive words for active, ownership-driven vocabulary, you instantly elevate your perceived authority. And you have to carry that authoritative tone right through the final moments of the conversation.
Very true.
The sources make it clear that the exit is just as critical as the greeting.
You certainly don't want to just let the conversation awkwardly trail off, stand up, and leave. You must maintain agency.
How do you do that?
You do this by asking proactive closing questions, such as, what does the timeline for the next steps look like? Or, when might I expect to hear feedback? This demonstrates that you are engaged and forward-thinking.
And you finalize the interaction with a clear, confident closing statement. Thank you for your time and insights today. It was great speaking with you. Maintain eye contact, offer a firm handshake, and exit smoothly.
So what does this all mean? If we look back at the entire journey detailed in our sources today, we see a clear progression. We move from the physiological panic of the greeting, managing the fight-or-flight response, and deliberately slowing our pace, to mastering the art of the introduction, using the cognitive ease of the present-past-future framework.
We then explored how to prove actual value by abandoning naked adjectives in favor of the situation-action-result storytelling structure. And finally, we analyzed how to navigate weaknesses with positive framing and upgrade our micro-vocabulary to project absolute ownership. The overarching philosophy is clear. Mastering interview English is not about unlocking secret, complex grammar rules.
Not at all.
It is entirely about utilizing structure to project clarity, confidence, and professional agency.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it fundamentally changes the nature of the event. An interview is no longer an interrogation designed to expose the gaps in your vocabulary.
Thank goodness for that.
Exactly. It is simply a platform provided to you so that you can tell your unique professional story and demonstrate the tangible value you bring to their organization.
It reframes the entire experience from a threat to an opportunity.
Exactly. And to leave you with something to really turn over in your mind, I want to present a challenge based on the source material we explored today. First, ask yourself, if language and location were completely irrelevant, which company in the world would you most want to work for, and what specific problem would you want to solve for them?
Picture that environment clearly in your mind.
And then, consider this. If a job interview is ultimately just a reflection of how you value your own professional worth, what story are your current English phrases telling that hiring manager?
Yeah.
Are your words telling a story of hesitation, apology, and passivity? Or are they telling a story of ownership, capability, and unshakable confidence? I encourage you to take some time this week to sit down and consciously rewrite your professional narrative using the psychological frameworks we analyzed today.
Because the next time a hiring manager smiles and says, "Tell me about yourself,"
Yeah.
you are not going to freeze. You are going to know exactly how to lead the conversation.